ActionSA held a picket outside Parliament to protest against the Basic Education Laws Amendment Bill. This as Parliament moves closer to next week Wednesday's deadline for written comments on the BELA Bill. ActionSA says the bill gives too much power to the minister and disempowers school governing bodies. The party says, amongst other issues, is concerning that the bill proposes the transfer of authority for setting school language policy from SGBs to the Department of Basic Education.
The inability of schools to sell alcohol on premises, we want to take that away, specifically in the Western Cape, where we have such issues with alcohol and drug abuse. We think that would be a problem. And then also with regards to the power given to the minister to determine who can be on a school governing body, we would like that taken away. We would also like to see the interference with regards to homeschooling. We want that amended because honestly, homeschooling is sometimes the best option for parents, and that should lie in the hands of the parents who know what the best interests are usually for their children.
For more on this protest and this discussion, we're now joined in studio by Angela Sobey, ActionSA Senator, and she's here to tell us more about what they were doing in Parliament today. And, you know, Angela, thank you so much for joining us this evening here in SABC News. One would say that looking at the protest, you took this protest right on the doorstep of Parliament. Why are you against the BELA Bill?
Thank you so much, and good evening to you and your viewers. So as ActionSA, our biggest problem with the bill in its current format is that it gives disproportionate powers to the Ministry of Education. And we feel that everything that it seeks to address currently is not necessarily, it's just going to cause the minister to have more powers in terms of having a say in education, which already is fraught with challenges. So the education system currently is heavily influenced by trade unions. It's highly politicized. You know, you've just got the infrastructures collapsing and so on. We feel as ActionSA that the department has got a responsibility to address the challenges. Start with everything that's broken and just leave for a minute what is not broken.
And many are asking at home, when you're saying that it gives the minister too much power and control, what exactly do you mean? If maybe you can outline that to us.
In essence, Mbali, what we're trying to say is that can education be depoliticized, and can education just be left to the educators to educate our children? If you look at the challenges that we're facing in education, in the public schools in particular, we still have children, falling into and drowning in pit latrines. Can the Department of Education and the government address those issues? You still have children being washed away by rivers and as they try and make their way to school. Schools are places where drugs are accessible, where teaching doesn't happen because you have more cadre deployment at schools taking place where teachers aren't properly qualified. We have issues where our 10-year-old grade 4 learners, 8 out of 10 of those learners cannot read for meaning. So we've got significant issues in education, and those issues need to be addressed, and education just needs to be made a conducive environment for learning for our learners.
And there's also talk with your protest and what you were doing today, saying that there's going to be some level of interference to school governing bodies, and the SGBs are disempowered. In what way would they be disempowered?
So in terms of the language policy, the BELA Bill basically, we believe that it should be accompanied by interventions that expand true access to education. But the BELA Bill's proposed transfer of authority seeks to transfer the authority from school governing bodies to the Minister of Education. And we believe that that is a bit too much political interference. We don't need draconian laws at this point in time. We need to trust school governing bodies and educators that are empowered to do what needs to be done in the best interest of the children.
And one would ask, maybe is the minister here trying to regulate the schools across the country, and hence why they want to see this bill come into place? I mean, you speak about a language policy, and we know that maybe in some schools there are children around the area, but they can't go to a certain school because of the language policy in that school. Perhaps, don't you think maybe this is a way of them trying to address some of the challenges that maybe you are highlighting, but some of the challenges that are facing some communities?
The approach in this, so there are 5 key points that we have an issue with in this bill. The one relates to the actual definition of what is defined according to this bill as the right to basic education. We believe that the definition should be expanded to include references to auxiliary factors that impact access to education, like transport, infrastructure, qualified and adequately resourced schools and teachers. We feel that the grade R attendance should be accompanied by interventions that expand access to education, because currently the grade R curriculum doesn't clearly articulate what it is that's going to be incorporated there. When grade R is actually, they're looking at bringing it in, it needs to give a solid foundation for basic education, for foundation phase education. It's so that by the time children get further into the system. So it's not clear. We also want to understand the true financial costs and the fiscal trade-offs with regards to incorporating that into foundation phase before this bill can be passed. The transfer, as we said earlier, of the authority in terms of the language policy from school governing bodies. School governing bodies are closer to the community, closer to the ground. The department, we do not believe that legislation is going to address the challenges. And this is one of our biggest problems with the bill in its current format. We believe that addressing the challenges, the infrastructure, how is this going to work in practice? Instead of carting children 40 kilometers from where they reside, let's rather work on the planning. Let's rather work on having the schools ready for learning with your textbooks, with your resources that are required on day one, instead of day one of every single school year being characterized by utter chaos. We believe in terms of homeschooling that we should trust the parents to make decisions that are in the best interests of their children. After all, it is the parents that stepped up during the hard lockdown when the Department of Education was found floundering in terms of what to do to educate the kids. It was the parents that stepped in and homeschooled. So we are saying trust the parents to make decisions that are in the best interest, instead of trying to lock them up for wanting to homeschool their children, especially when there are so many challenges at public schools. Address those challenges, fix those challenges, have properly trained teachers. So we're saying that we want, as ActionSA, in government, for the Department of Education to reinstate. You know, if we were to come into government, we would want teacher training colleges reinstated. We would want school inspectors brought back. We would want education depoliticized, so that you do not have the politicians going to tell the educators how to do their job, but that educators are properly capacitated and resourced to do their jobs properly.
Is this part of ActionSA's campaign to get themselves into Parliament?
This is part of what has brought us into politics in the first place, is these failures. What has necessitated a party like ActionSA is precisely the challenges faced by South African society. South Africans deserve better. The learners in South Africa are the future of this country, and the very least we can do for them is to ensure that they are able to read, to write, to have some basic life skills by the time they finish school. And currently, a 30% pass rate is barely enough to, without any additional skills, to prepare you for life, is not going to adequately equip you for life beyond school.
Come next week, Wednesday, should this bill be passed into law, what actions will you be taking as a political party?
As ActionSA, we will be certainly making a lot of noise in terms of why it should not be passed, and we will certainly be supporting any interventions to ensure that it doesn't pass. And should it pass, by any means necessary, because as we're aware, Parliament is a numbers game. So in the event that it's passed, we will certainly continue making noise in ensuring that what needs to be addressed in education is addressed.
And in some of your demands to Parliament, what have been those demands, those submissions you made today during that protest?
So we've made the submissions. So part of what we want as ActionSA in terms of the basic the BELA Bill, we are saying that the five, in summary, there are 5 key points, which is we believe that the definition of the right to basic education is not clearly articulated in the BELA Bill. We are objecting to the blanket upliftment of the ban on the sale of alcohol. We've got enough problems in our schools with drugs, with addiction and bullying and gangsterism. We do not still need alcohol being a free-for-all. So we are saying that we would prefer to see the ban, like at least not the blanket lifting of the ban on the sale of alcohol, that needs to be managed better. We are saying that we do not need to be that draconian about homeschooling. We need to trust parents to make decisions that are in the best interest of their children. And we are saying that the language policy, taking those powers away from the school governing bodies, just gives too much powers to the Ministry of Education and the Department of Education. And of course, looking at grade R and ensuring that early childhood development is properly supported, it's properly funded, it's properly resourced, because the products that you're going to put into grade R are coming from early childhood development. So the entire ECD system needs to be looked at. We could be taking the 400 Rand that we are paying per prisoner per day and investing that into the future learners of this country, as opposed to 17 Rand per child per day for registered ECD centres only.
Angela, thank you so much for your time, and thank you so much for coming into studio today to give us more insight on that discussion. That is Angela Sobey. She is a senator from ActionSA.